Hey everybody, welcome back to Industry Influencers. I'm so excited today because I have the wonderful, super fantastic, amazing Cindy Arledge from the Legacy Revolution. Hello Cindy, great to have you on the show today.
Trey, thank you for having me here. I am thrilled to be here with you.
Well, it's a pleasure. I know that you and I have gotten to meet and we've talked for about a couple months now, and it's been a pleasure every day to learn more about what you do and see your passion. So thank you for all that.
Well, thank you for being somebody who supports what I do.
I appreciate it. Well, this is really cool, guys, because Cindy is, yes, she speaks and she does these things here, there, but she is also doing something that's also super fantastic. She is literally pioneering an industry. So, Cindy, can you kind of go a little bit more into what that looks like?
To pioneer an industry, you have to have a real passion and a belief for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to believe that you're going to make the world a better place because of the energy that you put into it. And if I knew then what I knew now,
yeah,
it might not have happened, right?
Sure.
Because you think it's going to be a lot easier than it is. But it's just one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life.
That's awesome. Well, why don't you give us, our viewers, some context. What is it that you do, and how, in what way are you pioneering that?
So what I do is I feel like I'm really disrupting the estate planning industry.
Okay.
Because it's broken, and we don't even know it's broken because we all love to talk about death and money. Right?
First one's not fun. Second, well, I mean, depends. Yeah.
And so there's like this failure rate that is historical,
okay,
worldwide, and statistical.
Interesting.
Yeah. And when you start studying this and you realize that there's a real problem that's not even being addressed, and I'm passionate about it because it affected my family.
Sure.
When my parents passed away 8 months apart, that's part of the natural cycle of life. But what's not natural is losing relationships with your siblings. And what's not natural is for cousins to stop speaking to each other, and then when those rifts grow.
Yeah.
And when I went through that, I discovered that we weren't special. It happens like 7 out of 10 times immediately. Wow. And as the mother of 2 girls, stepmother to 1, and then eventually a grandmother known as Elmo, I wanted to make sure that that didn't happen to my kids. And so when I discovered that there were people who were successful at it, and I discovered what they were doing, but it's like this, I used to call it the best kept secret hiding in plain sight. Because what they do and the disruption that needs to occur is to actually prepare the family. You don't wait till you die to leave a legacy, you live it every day. And so the missing piece is that we've been relying on legal documents to transfer financial assets. And the piece that needs to happen in the industry that's been missing is this piece in the middle that prepares the family while you're alive. It's the plan that you create with your family while you're alive. That
seems really smart, and I'm surprised that there's not something like that already.
Well, there is, but you have to have $50 million to get in the door.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know about you, but I don't have $50 million.
I mean, it'd be great, but
Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah, so what's kind of the take that you've taken with the Legacy Revolution and how you're pioneering that it is something that is affordable, and because you're also talking about multiplying yourself, and you teach this to like groups of people, and so kind of explain a little bit more about that.
Well, one of the things that I believe in is that you can't outgive God. Right? You just can't. You just can't outgive. You can't give enough. But you also need to be paid for your expertise because that's part of, why you do what you do. So the legacy that I want to leave for my family is a financial legacy, and I do it because I believe that with a financial legacy, I can do better good in the world. Right? So I can, by doing good for our family, we can do better good for the world in a way that is specific to what we want to see happen, right? Because we all have passions.
Sure, absolutely.
And so the first of all is share, and be willing to share an expertise, and then be able to create systems that anybody can follow. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a huge fan of the E-Myth, by Michael Gerber.
Okay.
And that you create a system for everything, and so that you can replicate what you do. Because brain surgery isn't hard when you know how to do brain surgery.
Yeah, that's true. You train for it, and yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I know that's one of the biggest things, is especially with a field where there's just a lot of unknowns and uncertainties, and honestly, it can be scary sometimes to even take those steps. but to kind of debunk the myth and debunk the fear about it, and be like, no, it's just planning, it's just preparing, and it doesn't have to be something that's overwhelming.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I have a friend of mine, you're going to see more and more about this industry. I mean,
Okay.
we're in a $65 trillion transfer of wealth right now. We're in the largest wealth transfer that's ever occurred in the history of mankind.
Wow.
And so if you take that a step further, recognizing that 7 out of 10 families will have relationship difficulties and 9 out of 10 families will lose that wealth in 3 generations, we're facing an economic crisis at the family level that no one even sees coming.
Yeah. That's mind-boggling to think about.
It really is. And so I have a friend of mine that wrote a fantastic book. It's called Click Here When I Die. And isn't that great? It's about, the death etiquette of having things neat and tidy for your family so that they can actually grieve for you. And he has a line that I absolutely love that says, if we talk about sex, I'm not going to get pregnant. And so we can talk about death and one of us isn't going to necessarily die. Right? Yeah. Because I can't tell you how many people I talk to that they say, well, I can't talk about that because, the positive energy and negative energy and what you think about, you bring about. Well, I got bad news for you. I haven't found anybody who's made it out of here alive yet.
That's true.
Right?
No, you're right.
And so we might as well prepare and we might as well plan. And this conversation, I have found, affects our economy in 4 different ways. It's $1 billion and $1 trillion just piles onto itself, that this one conversation can really help our country at because the family is the smallest economic unit of society. So if we have unhealthy, unfinancially strong families, we have an unhealthy, unfinancially strong nation. And so this legacy planning is, to me, even though I don't give anybody financial advice, it's about preparing the family and how to be cohesive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that this has affected you personally, and I want to say thank you for taking the courage to meet the needs that you see. Because I think that within our fields, it's important to, if something happens, be the change that we want to see in the world. So I really appreciate you for first doing that. Second, I think that there's other people that, since we're wanting to encourage with that, it can be a hard thing to kind of disrupt an industry.
It can, especially one that people, it's already taboo, right?
Yeah.
But I think now's the time. We are in such a great, I love living where we're at right now. We've disrupted the Uber and
That's
Amazon.
true. Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing disruption everywhere. And there's a lot of industries that need to be disrupted. But the sad thing about this industry is that most people think the problem is the money, where the real problem is that we're avoiding death. And it's really not, it's not anybody's fault because our brain's wired to keep us safe. And it's afraid to talk about death. And so we have this illusion of I have time or I don't have time. Those are the 2 excuses I get. I don't have time to deal with this. Oh, I'll have time before I die.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have, a clock that winds down at a certain time. I always tell people, spoiler alert, you don't have to be old to die.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I want to ask this because I know that we've talked about having systems in place for how to multiply yourself. How do you specifically disrupt an industry that's already kind of set in its ways a little bit? Because I know we've seen it done, but out of your words and what you're doing specifically, how can you really disrupt the norm?
Well, it's funny because when I set out to do this, I thought that one path would be the way to go.
Okay.
But as you go along, you have to stay attuned to the information that you're receiving back from the people around you. So I thought one industry would actually love me, and in fact, they were like, "Oh no, to your point, they're like, this is the way we do it.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it any other way." And I ended up speaking at the Certified Senior Advisor Conference. Okay. And that is an industry that we've created in our country to support seniors. And they love me because they're dealing with the disasters. They already are in the midst of families being torn apart while the person's still alive. So they see the advantages of planning. And so I had to be willing to pivot.
Interesting.
Sorry,
I just thought of Friends. Have you seen the Friends episode where Ross is like, pivot! The couch.
Probably not.
I'm moving out with some roommates in a couple weeks, so
You're going to pivot?
We're gonna pivot. We literally there's a second story, and we're gonna pivot the couch and stuff. But that's a
okay.
completely different thing. It just made me laugh. But yes, to your point, it's important to be able to pivot between industries to really find where your niche is.
Right, and to pivot being where you think you're going this way, but then you're directed this way. And so you have to be willing to trust the journey and follow the path instead of staying so rigid.
Well, thank you, Cindy, for sharing that. And just really quick, I want to thank the Trey Group. The Trey Group has been a super awesome sponsor up through this series and up to this point, and we're really grateful for them to just allow us to use their facility to film here. If you're interested in using booths or setups for showcasing your business and branding at showrooms or on the go, visit their Carrollton location here because they have some really awesome setups. So, or you can visit them at thetraygroup.com. But Cindy, what is maybe like 3 things for our audience today that they can take away? Like, what are the 3 things you want them to take away with?
As far as starting and disrupting an industry for themselves, right?
Yeah, yes, it can be, yeah.
So I would say if you're ready to disrupt the industry, you see something that you could improve on. Be willing to do the research and really know the real cause, because so many times we think we're dealing with the cause when we're not. We're just dealing with the symptom.
Okay.
Right? So make sure that you're really dealing with the cause so you can really change it. And then the second thing I would say is whatever skills you don't have, don't try to learn them yourself. Don't try to learn things that you're not expertise. Hire someone like you to do the video. You know, I mean, you can't be changing the world if you're trying to learn all the different things that it takes, right?
Sure.
And I think the number 3 thing that I would take away from it is make sure that you find out what the customer wants. Because there's sometimes a big difference between what they need and what they want, and get paid as quickly as possible, right? By actually getting a customer and actually helping them and getting that feedback and getting that experience and really learning how the information or the disruption that you want to create will actually help the client, because lots of times you get surprised.
Based off of, and just to clarify that, finding out really what's needed and what they want.
Real world application.
Application.
It's like don't sit in a room for years trying to think you're going to change the world. Go do real world application.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to recap on that, make sure that you're researching so that way you really know what you're doing. And then the second part of that was about meeting the needs.
Just understanding the root cause.
The root cause.
Right,
That's right.
Right. The root cause.
And then the third one was making sure that it can be applicable in their field.
Well, and I slipped a 4th one in there because that's what I do.
No wonder I'm confused.
Yeah. So make sure that you're dealing with the root cause.
Okay.
Do your research. Hire people to do things that you don't need to. Yeah, hire Trey. I'm just saying.
Well, really, another way to reword it is partner with the professionals that would just strengthen your own team.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't need to know everything. Partner with professionals that let them do their expertise so you can focus on your expertise. But as quickly as possible, get real world applications.
Absolutely.
Of what you're doing. And that's the 3 points that I would say.
3/4.
Yeah, 3. You know, I'm a Gemini.
Same. When's your birthday?
June 2nd.
June 11th.
Oh,
we should talk afterwards.
Yeah, we should. We could have a party, all 4 of us.
I know, right? Great. It's funny. But I just want to say, I can't express how grateful I am to you, Cindy, for making your time here to be available and really share. Because, again, to pioneer an industry is a big feat. It takes a lot of guts, you know, to be able to, and a boldness to be able to step out and do that. So thank you, first of all, for doing that in your own field, and second, for being able to share that with our audience members today.
Well, thank you, Trey, for having me here. And we always have fun, right?
If you can't tell, we laugh a lot. We laugh a lot.
Yeah.
I broke my finger recently, and I sat on it on a trip to Austin with some roommates for a shoot. And she's like, "You got to come with a better story than that." And so we were like, we put a bullfight in there, and we put like a Kentucky Derby and a bunch of stuff in there.
Yeah.
We should throw skydiving in there too.
I
was
that.
skydiving during a bullfight, riding a Kentucky Derby horse, because that is totally believable.
It is, totally. Well, the idea is that you do it just enough, right?
Yeah, so that's probably a little bit too much.
Yeah, maybe too much. Yeah, pick one lane and go for it.
Right. Funny. Well, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate you. So thank you for being on today.
All right, Trey, thank you.
Oh, and I wanted to say too, how how can people get in contact with you?
Oh.
Because that's important.
Yeah, it is. So the legacyrevolution.com is the best place to start.
Okay.
Because that's where we're really gathering the information to just kind of do an overview of this new industry so people can understand what it's at. So thelegacyrevolution.com.
Well, perfect. Well, make sure if you haven't already to like and subscribe because we have a new industry influencer every week. Well, thank you for your time today, guys, and we will see you all next week. See ya.
Bye.